5:42 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Spring is coming. 3/12/2012. What a ring. We're looking at Priceline here in the video on the weekly level once again. We'll be checking data feeds and making sure everything is correct, MMTs. And basically, I've got a weekly high of 655.09. That's that top end resistance level right up here with this bar right here. But it's narrow range, and it's on a weekly. And what we're going to be looking for is a directional movement in Priceline, pre-market Priceline. That's on a weekly level. So there's a few others that we're going to look at too, is this Apple gap. And on this weekly chart with Apple, it's gone parabolically straight right on up. Now, when we gap up higher, like we talked about, and part of our scenario was, MMTs, that when this gaps up to a higher resistance level in the delta tree, it, at that point in time, is going to become, ooh, how about that? There it is, 557. We'll be talking about the prices and whatnot, and how it has to get through. Each peak is going to have a resistance level. And you can tell right here, as I've said, on that weekly level, you can continue to gap higher, but each higher high will have price exhaustion. Look for the immediate reversal bar, and the trading ranges would be wide. That's on Apple. Let's talk about the bid and the ask. One of the things that I'm going to point out here in pre-market, 237,000 shares traded at 5:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3/12/2012. Close 545.17. Pre-market bid and ask gap open up price action 547.72 by 85 pennies. 85 pennies at last print. Key focus, price gap open up exhaustion. What does that mean? Let me tell you. Once it goes up into the delta, look for that 3/4 delta, half delta, look for those teeny ranges, and look for that 9 teeny high, and you can even apply that from the close now, 545.17 MMT, to the gap, 547.95, 547.96 pennies, 99 pennies pinned right here. So as you go higher up to those resistance levels, you will be overbought. Therefore, you will look for that $2.50 drop when you make that intraday peak at that 3-minute reversal bar. You could come down 3 teenies and bounce right back up 3 teenies and then roll over, but at some point, the exhaustion price of that gap from the close, dollar ratio wise, MMT, take a look, 245.17 by 247.85, 98 pennies printed. So when you're looking at a pre-market strategy, you're looking for the very best price where those higher gaps, people that were trying to short Apple, well, they're going to have to buy the cover. Okay, now I'm just saying there are people out there who do. So once those shorts come up to those and buy the cover, and it gets up in that delta tree, and right when it hits that wall of resistance, look for that 3 bar to start its turn, confirmed with the closing half bar, let's say 50 pennies below the previous bar in the price there, MMT. So let's get ready to take this live, and we'll just call it Apple right now because that's what that gap is, and it's a dollar ratio gap. And every MMT learns to sell dollar ratio gap sequences because they're profitable as the equity will set up the today's price range. So you'll have your resistance in price that will also reversal in price. Now, what does that reversal mean? You sell short up there, and if you're long off of those bottoms, because when it pulls back, you're going to look to see how those delta lines hold that gap price. That's that ratio right here, 547.84 on the bid, ask, right here. Okay, and these two lines are really important as to the dollar ratio gap. 317, 550 put, and it's here, it's live, it's now. Now, look at the closing price right here. It was $12.35. It's a monthly expiration. And MMTs, why are we so excited in pre-market? Because we get to steal that bid. Yep, can't learn that in an options book. Go find me one. I've already given the lower market limit orders, and this is pre-market, 5:52 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we have this 317 550 put, and this is live, and that's the close. And and you can see what the lows were, and the high ranges were. You had a $2.15 range in the contract, MMT. So basically, yes, we're going to put, based on the Apple gap, which is right here. Here's the Apple stock, and here's that gap ratio that we've been talking about, and where the last prints are, okay, and that pre-market volume. So one of the things that we do with you is we take you through the pre-market and how headlines start out the day and all of these things that move prices and where markets are going to be made with the general public now in the exchange model. That bid and that ask. Somebody set alarms down here at about 570 by 630 just so you could get your alerts out there on the lower end. Our bids are much lower than that. However, this will have to break above the 550 area in the price action MMT. So you can see you're going to have to go from 548 up to the 550 price level. They'll have to run it up there, chase it up there, hit that intraday high peak and that opening bell, and or in pre-market. We are in pre-market still. And watch for sellers. Watch those last prints between the bid and the ask. So the dollar gap ratio, that the ask is 548. You're going to have to run up to $550 in price. If you do that, then they're going to take the premium out, and then the MMT, they already know they'd like to be getting hit down there around 220 by 270 below the market. Like a $7 markdown would be nice. That's that lower end of that market on this monthly contract for now. And it's also, once again, remember, it closed at 1235. The low on Friday was 905. Still, we're not, we're down there in that wholesale range. They're not going to, it just depends. It has to get above. It has to run up to 550 now in price. MMT. It's also referred to a delta climactic top in the system where you go up, let's say, I don't know, look at 1.5 deltas on the gap in the news. We know that it's news related, $3. So we know that on the first pass, these aren't going to go down to those lower tier levels. There are other price tier levels within the 550 put option. Okay, there was 9,100 of these traded on Friday's volume, so you know. And we have the complete lineup right here, MMT. We're going to be looking at this 550, and that's a March 550, by the way. So you're also going to look at that 545 call. There was 23,000 day volume traded, 24,000 of the 550s up and out of the money. So we're going to be watching these calls for one reason, to see how much premium they steal out of the price, as far as both the call side and the put side MMTs. This side of the market gets marked down, and so does this side. So wholesale entries have to be below the floor based on the gap sequences. And right now we're working toward that 550 area, and we have live bids down there, anywhere down in there. $7 markdown bids, 2.5 by 270. Yeah, I can do it here. I can do it now. I can do it live, and I'm doing it at 550 in the time zone, Pacific Standard Time, 558. And in the last 10 minutes, the price has been rising since we've been doing the video. So the thing about it is, MMTs, 32 minutes opening bell. Pre-market, 548.20. And it's a pre-market preview of how MMTs will apply those wholesale bids, and why staying out of the way and letting the opportunities come to you, MMT. The opportunities come to you. And these are the opportunities that markets provide for market makers. The low is 905. We're going to be below that bid. We're going to let it put on a climactic opening bell high, reversal, and all of this is done at 5:59 a.m. And we'll leave the last prints are running in our direction in the brain. You'll take a look at 548.37 going toward that 550 strike right here. And I'm going to steal that bid, and you can watch me live because you can see it here, you can see it now, and you can see how I have those bids out there and how I can steal that print and make that entry and sell it back to the public for a higher price. Special preview, Apple, 600 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3/12/2012.